This is The Road Show, and I'm your host, David Warren. Today is Therapy Day with our friend Kim Har, a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. Our topic today is multiple, as we are calling this Hot Topics. Kim and I will be discussing some of the most common issues she helps her clients with at There's Hope Counseling. At this time, let's welcome back our friend, Kim Har.
Hi, David. It is so good to be back.
I believe you. You love coming to the radio network.
I do. It feels like something's not normal if I'm not popping in here.
Well, I am very eager to hear a Hardy Har Har story. That is your, I say, new last name. How long have you been married?
Can you believe it's been 8 years? It seems like just yesterday, but it's already been 8 years.
And you're really enjoying being married.
I am. I am in the best season of my life.
Does Andrew have a good sense of humor?
He has an odd sense of humor. He's like, doesn't catch on to a lot of my humor. And he just lets me laugh at myself. And he makes me laugh almost every single day, though. He's an amazing person.
All right. So what is our Hardy Har Har story for this month?
You know, it's kind of about Andrew, but it's not really about Andrew. And in the Hardy Har home, we have got a member of our family who does not like to cooperate. And I've told many stories on Ray the dog.
Yes.
But Ray the dog has become almost like this, oh my goodness. She has a way of just pushing your buttons, and you love her, but you just don't love her. And so I don't know what happened, but she had been going through this thing where she would jump on our counters. Now, I got to say, Rachel is part Great Pyrenees and part Englishire Terrier, which is Pit Bull. So she's tall.
By the way, I remember her jumping up on your counter one time. And how many sticks of butter?
She ate 4 sticks. Well, she ate 3 and buried 1 behind the bed, behind our bed. I don't know when she was going to go get it.
My next question is, do you have hardwood floors or carpeting?
In the bedroom, it's carpet.
Oh.
And so I came home one day, and I'm a little bit of, maybe I coddle her a little bit more than Andrew does. And so I saw she had gotten like some hamburger buns off the counter, and she went to our couch, and she went to bury them beneath our couch cushions, but she actually tore our couch cushion by the zipper. And so I thought, oh, I know Andrew cannot take another incident with Ray. So I flipped the cushion over, and I thought I'll just have to wait till a good time to let him know we need to get the cushion fixed. And so I had not even told him about this episode when I came home from work.
The hamburger
bun buried in the couch with the ripped cushion. So I come home, and I hear Andrew yell from the bedroom, and he's like, honey. And so I go in there, and I don't know what he did to get Rachel on his bad side, but Rachel had climbed up on the bed, and she had tinkled all over his pillow. and it was kind of funny, but not funny. And so Rachel is now banned to the crate. Every single time we leave the house, she has to go to the crate. And I have to remind myself it's for her good. But yeah, it's like you get to the point where you wonder, how long do dogs live? Because she's at least 8 years old. And I'm thinking, I think Great Pyrenees typically lived about 12, 14. And so I'm thinking, this is going to be a long few years. Bless Andrew's heart.
Okay, wow.
Mm-hmm. Anybody need a Great Pyrenees?
Well, we have some hot topics today.
We do.
And how this came to be is we were discussing the next topic that we should cover during a therapy session here on the Road Show. And you sent me 5 ideas, and I said they're all great. And then I said, why don't we just call it Hot Topics and dive in and see how far we get? And we might need to do a part 2, but you have picked 5 really interesting things to discuss. Why don't you tell us what we will be covering?
Sure. Well, let me tell you, these 5 topics that I threw out to you are actually ones I can deal with all 5 of these in 1 week. Now, maybe not all in one day with clients, because I can see anywhere between 6 to 8 clients a day. But these are typically, I will see all 5 of these in my office every single week. And so the topics I threw out to you, the first one is hot topic number 1 is on emotional cutoff, which is like becoming so common, and you're hearing more and more in the media, people doing interviews and podcasts and articles. So it's becoming very, very popular. Our hot topic number 2 is about overfunctioning, and this is the predecessor to burnout. Hot topic 3 is when we have boundary struggles, and it's not just about other people setting boundaries, it's when I have a hard time setting and enforcing boundaries. Hot topic 4 is what I call unfinished business, and it's when things don't have it's not wrapped up, things are left without answers, and I'm left holding the bag. What do I do with that? And then hot topic 5 is, I say it's when you can't fix it. And this is maybe more of a codependency. What do you do when you're hurting because other people are hurting? And you want more than anything to make their hurt stop.
All right. Interesting topics that we will cover at least today, if not across 2 programs together. I'm David Warren here with Kim Har, and we will both be back after this. I'm David Warren here with some exciting news for Oasis listeners. We have a new mobile device app. It's free, easy to download, and lets you enjoy our refreshing music and talk everywhere you go. If you have an Android cell phone, go to the Google Play Store. And if you have an iPhone or iPad, visit the Apple Store and search for Oasis Radio Network. Be an Oasis ambassador and share this news with family and friends around the world.
Oasis Roadshow.
And we're back. I'm David Warren.
And I'm Kim Har.
And we have a very interesting topic today, actually 5 topics, but we won't get to all of these hot topics. They are common issues that you as a trained therapist encounter every day in your office, Kim. Before we dive into hot topic number 1, which is very interesting, by the way, emotional cutoff. Can't wait to get into that. Tell us about your background in psychotherapy. That's
Sure.
your training.
Sure. I've got 2 different licenses, and I went to school. I got a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, and then I went for 2 licenses. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm also a licensed professional counselor, and I have been a licensed therapist for 19 years now, so I'm almost on 2 decades.
So we have 5 hot topics, and the first one is really interesting, as I said. It's called emotional cutoff, and I've heard a lot about this lately. Mm-hmm. How do you define emotional cutoff?
You know, emotional cutoff is really, it's when people end relationships with very little or no explanation. So it's an abrupt cutoff, and the other person is typically left wondering what happened.
So conflict resolution is completely void in this case.
That's right. Well, it doesn't mean that they haven't tried it, because some people may try that first, which is what I suggest. But too often people get tired of conflict, and working on conflict, putting the real work into the relationship is too much. So it's just easier just to cut people off.
So the question is, when is it time to cut somebody off?
Yeah, I think the time to cut people off are when it gets to be where it's more of an emotional or a physical safety issue. It is, first of all, I suggest that it's times when we have already tried to work with conflict management. I like to encourage people to go and get counseling where you've got a trained professional that can actually help hold 2 perspectives. Because a lot of times when you've got emotional cutoff, you have 2 people that have a really hard time hearing the other person's perspective.
Now, that would be especially in the case of family members.
Absolutely. Yeah, if it's a friend that's being cut off, and let me tell you how common this actually is. I was talking to, I don't remember what the setting was in the last few weeks, but I said something about emotional cutoff. And probably this young lady that was, I don't know, in her early 20s, and she was like, oh yeah, that's like the Irish goodbye. And I'm thinking, well, what's the Irish goodbye?
Irish exit, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like where you leave without telling anybody you're leaving. And it was almost just like this, oh yeah, that's just what we do. And so I think that it is just becoming so common that, in friendships, I think that whether or not that goes to therapy is how important is this friendship to me? And is my friend actually willing to do that?
So why do you think there's an uptick in emotional cutoffs?
I think there is less tolerance of being able to hold different perspectives. I see this actually even when I'm doing marriage counseling. People feel like our perspectives have to be the same, or if you have a different perspective than me, it feels threatening, it feels dangerous, it feels like I don't want to hear your perspective because there's only room for one, and that's mine. And so it's really important to be able to hold, I want to hear, where are you coming from? Help me understand. And cutoffs come in when you've got people that are more manipulating, that are guilting you with things like always saying, how could you do this to me when I've done all this for you? Or you're making me feel this, and this, and you've got somebody that's just incapable of holding two perspectives.
Okay. Tell us more about this.
Yeah. I try to really differentiate between what's more boundaries, because I will often hear people say, well, they crossed my boundaries, and so I'm just cutting them off. But it's being phrased in a way like I'm just protecting my mental health, or they're toxic. And the word toxic is actually being thrown around a lot. And some of that is because of our culture. Social media is, don't let people steal your peace. Everything is about, we're focusing on, I don't want to be uncomfortable. And so there's this fine line between, am I doing the work, and do I want to see this relationship succeed if it can? Or is it, I'm just tired. I'm on to the next thing. Sometimes I see it a lot with parents and grandparents, where young parents they can feel judged. You may have a grandparent age that thinks they're being helpful. And so they're trying to give good advice, but it's not coming across as advice. It's coming across as, you need to do it my way. And so a parent can feel undermined, and they try to put some separation there, but an older grandparent may not really be open for that.
So how do you as a therapist help your client reframe, I'm going to cut off my fill in the blank, my friend, my mom, my dad, my grandparent, and do you say, well, let's discuss if there have been boundaries set in place first, and if those boundaries have been broken, to see if maybe it's too early for an emotional cutoff here.
Well, and I think there's a part of really looking at, let's just talk about this relationship. One is, what has been the history of the relationship? Has there been good from the relationship? Has it always been like this? When did the friction begin? I'll say, what have you tried? Have you tried bringing in another person and talking about it? Have you asked the other person, help me understand where you're coming from? Do you feel like you've actually held their perspective before you're actually just saying, this is the only way it is? I really look for anger, because I see a lot of bitterness and boundaries kind of crossing. Somebody can be bitter because you're not respecting my boundaries. And I say, if you're going to do an emotional cutoff, do it without the bitterness. You could set a boundary and say, I'm really sorry that this is the way it has to be. But especially for the time being, this is what we need to try. And I'm firm on that. But I don't have to be harboring bitterness and be angry at this person. And so I'm always looking for anger and bitterness.
So before somebody, a young person, let's say, cuts off his or her parent, that would be very hurtful on multiple fronts. Do you recommend that they come in as a family to discuss boundaries?
Yes, but I think, first of all, I would be talking with the person that's thinking about the cutoff. And I would open it up and ask, would it be helpful? Would they consider letting the other person come in? I would invite the other person in for an individual session with me as well first, as part of family therapy, so that I can actually ask them, prepare them, and kind of set the stage of, okay, if we're going to do a family therapy session, let's make sure that we're going to do this in a healthy way where we're all in agreement that we're not just talking over each other, that we're going to be practicing how do we actually hold all these perspectives and come to an agreement. And maybe it won't be an agreement where both want the cutoff, but it may be how do you honor that? Because then the second part of it is, how do I honor a cutoff?
I love your idea about bringing in this case, the parents separately, because what you don't want is a big blow up in your office.
Right, right. You know, I want people to know that I am wanting health for both people. And if we can do that together, if we can come to, you know, even if we're just going to try something. So it's not, if you're not committing that if I commit, I'm going to try, that this is the way it's always going to be. It may be, I'm going to commit to try this. And if this doesn't work, then this is the next step. And so it's just, I like to use a difference between, I'll explain it as walls or windows. And sometimes people think of boundaries as walls that you can't get through. You erect these walls. And I like to encourage them to think of them as like electric windows, that you can put your finger on the up and down, and I can put it up as high as I need it to be, but it doesn't mean it has to be forever. It doesn't mean that I have to put it all the way down. I may put it down just a little bit and see, have we made any progress? Because sometimes we're really just needing to press pause and give some separation for a while. You know, almost like think of it as I'm hitting mute on a conversation rather than block. I'm just saying, for right now, let's just take a pause.
Right.
Let's let this settle. Let's just regain some perspective here.
I love that idea. I'm looking at the notes that you provided for me in advance, and you wrote here that overuse of cutoff, in other words, anytime I'm upset with somebody, I cut him or her off, leads to isolation and unprocessed pain.
Yeah.
And you also call this a missed opportunity for growth.
It can be. You know, I always want to come back and say that there are healthy times for cutoff. So I'm not saying, I don't want to be saying cutoffs are always bad, but you want to use that as a last resort, because a lot of times when I have used a cutoff, there can be no going back. It's like, okay, now even if we want to try and reestablish things, there can be hurt feelings. There can be just a different set of issues that are going to be coming. And so it's a little bit more of people, we don't want people cutting somebody off because I don't know what to do. It's, I want to be cutting somebody off because we need protection. We need to make sure that things are safe. We need to make sure we are emotionally safe. But we don't want it to be just because, well, I don't know what else to do.
Are some people, though, overusing the I want to be emotionally safe angle, and they need to grow up a little bit and toughen up a little bit?
You know, I think that this goes back to, it's not necessarily what happened, but it's how something affects somebody. Because to one person, there may be this big event and it's like, okay, this deserves this cutoff, or this is toxic. And other people may say, hey, this has happened, but it's impacting me a certain way. And so I think that we don't want to overuse and just bail. We don't want to just jump ship. It's recognizing, hey, if this is affecting me, what can I do to really explore this? How can I, effectively communicate boundaries? Because sometimes it's unspoken expectations. I can have expectations for you, but I really never communicate them. And so these unspoken expectations become unmet expectations. The other thing is we can use cutoff. We may not use the word cutoff, but we may say things like, well, you know what? If you don't do this, this, and this, you're not going to see me again. And it becomes like this threat. And so, yes, it can be overused, and it's more when we're talking about protecting our emotional health, our emotional safety is, first of all, let's ask ourselves, what does make me feel safe? What is my emotional health? And what am I doing on a regular basis, not just in these tough situations, to protect it?
But you need to learn how to have the tough conversation before you just do a cutoff, or you should have a tough conversation.
It's helpful. It's helpful. Most people, now there may be some that you can't have that with, that you've tried, you just can't have it with, but you can have a tough conversation, and it doesn't mean agreement. So it doesn't mean I'm coming in here, I may have a tough conversation, and I'm setting a boundary, and I may say, hey, I have shared this before, this is what I've asked for, but this hasn't been honored. And because this hasn't been honored, I feel like right now we just need to take some time apart. We need to take some time. And I would say even with, when we're talking about things like cutoff, let's start with shorter times than longer times. Because it doesn't mean we have to say we're going to cut you off for, 3 to 5 years. It may be, you know what, let's take a month or two and let's just kind of back off on this a little bit. And let's try it again and see if we can make any headway. And if we can't, okay, then we may need to extend that.
All right, before we move on to hot topic number 2, these are common issues in therapy today. What about being on the receiving end of a cutoff? I'm the dad, and my 25-year-old son says, or doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
I've just been cut off.
Yeah. I think that if all of a sudden they just don't say anything, you can make an attempt. I'm going to say you can make a healthy one-time attempt that says, hey, can you help me understand? You can ask, have I done something? I'd be willing to talk about it. But if they're not responding to these, don't chase somebody that is putting a cutoff in place. Because if you're chasing and chasing and chasing, you can only make things worse. And that is probably more, it can feel frantic. So I'm making promises, I'll do whatever you need, and it's more that person probably needs some space. So don't chase them. Reflect for yourself. Are there things, that, whether it's my child, a friend, are there things that they've been saying to me that I've been thinking weren't big deals? And so I want to reflect, but not blame myself. Give yourself time to grieve the loss. And this is depending on the meaning of the relationship. That's where I would really encourage you to get in some therapy, because you can use some help in just holding that grief. Because there's grieving of what the relationship, maybe what it was, what it isn't now, and the fear of what it may never be. And so there's just lots of grieving that can be done there. And then also keep your heart open. And I like to say, when there's a cutoff, don't right away assume that it's going to be forever. And if you're able to just reframe that a little bit, I like to encourage, because I do a lot of Christian counseling, and I like to say, look at it as a cutoff is right now, this is all outside of my control, but you know what? This is maybe a time I can be praying for the person who has been hurt by me. Because obviously there's some hurt there. I can be praying for wisdom. I can be praying people will come alongside them, that they will listen to or hear, and give God some time. Give God some time. Don't get in it. Don't try and fix it and manipulate it. That's a time when you really get to put your trust in, okay, Lord, I've done everything I can do, and now I'm handing this over to you.
I love it. Kim Har is with us, and she is a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And we're discussing some common issues that she deals with in her office. And coming up is hot topic number 2, and that is about over-functioning. Trying to think if I know anybody who lives in that kind of mindset about over-functioning.
I might know one or two.
Back after this.
I'm Karen Jensen Salisbury, one of the hosts you hear on the Oasis Network Roadshow. For 35 years, this 1 hour of the day has inspired and motivated you, our listeners, with thousands of stories of people whose lives demonstrate the truth that with God, all things are possible. It's an hour that you should make a part of your day, Monday through Friday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central. The Roadshow, an Oasis Network presentation.
On the program today, Kim Har is back with us. She's our in-house therapist. And again, I say in-house because she's in the house, not because she's our therapist. You're not allowed to be our therapist. There's a boundaries issue there. When you know someone as a friend or you work with them.
That's right. It's called dual relationship. I cannot have a dual relationship.
So I would have to emotionally cut you off first, and then hire you as my therapist.
Provided I would do the cutoff. David, you could never cut me off.
Hey, let's mention the fact that you have written a book. What's the name of it?
I have. It is called Healing from Life's Deepest Hurts: Reclaiming Your Life After Grief, Loss, or Trauma.
All right. Where can people get one of those books?
They can go to my website, which is KimberlyHar.com, and Har is spelled Haar. Or they can just go to Amazon. They can go to their local bookstore, ask them for it. They're out there.
You're forgetting something very important.
Or they can call the Roadshow.
Or the audiobook is available on Audible.
That's right. You know, I
read the book.
I did. I kind of forget about that. You know, somebody sent me a text message just yesterday, and they said they saw it on Libby on the library. I guess the library has a loaning library for audibles and things like that. And so they sent me a picture of my book. And so go to your library and ask them to get it.
All right. We're talking about common issues that Kim as a therapist deals with on a daily basis. And we're just calling them hot topics. And we're to hot topic number 2, and it's called overfunctioning. So you see a lot of people that have an issue with overfunctioning. What is overfunctioning? I might just call that a go-getter, Kim.
Yeah, really. Overfunctioning is when you do more than your share of emotional, mental, or practical responsibilities. It's usually not everybody's asked me to do everything, but I'm doing everything. And this is, I like to say, is when I'm taking on too much and I don't have enough space for it. So I think we all know somebody in our lives who is an overfunctioner. And actually, you know, if I'm really honest, I probably tend to be a little bit of an overfunctioner. So it's kind of like a good trait that's just gone a little bit out of control that we have to learn to manage, because I really believe God's placed gifts and talents in us that we have to learn how to really balance. But our biggest strengths can also become our biggest weaknesses.
So if I'm constantly complaining about not having enough time or too many things on my to-do list, am I a prime candidate to be a overfunctioner?
I think that you're either an overfunctioner or a codependent. And so I think that with the overfunctioning, and they kind of tie together a little bit.
What's the difference?
Overfunctioning is there's more than just the reason I do this because of a fear of I'm people pleasing. So it's not just I want to please you, I don't want to disappoint you, because that's a little bit more of that people pleasing codependency. It's I'm putting you first, me last. Overfunctioning can also really be a part, though, is I'm afraid to let go of control. Because if I'm not doing it, I'm afraid it may not get done right. Or I may tell myself, well, it'll just be more work for me later. So I'm not even going to wait to be asked. I'm just going to start doing all this stuff. So I think the motive underneath it is a little bit different.
Okay. Tell us more.
Well, first of all, sometimes people think overfunctioners are like bossy. They're more dramatic, they're more demanding, and that's not always the case. I think that sometimes on the outside we look really capable, but on the inside we may be feeling overwhelmed. We may be feeling resentment for I'm feeling unseen or not appreciated, and we're feeling tired. So what you see on the outside is not always what's going on the inside. And when I say that overfunctioning comes out of fear, the first fear is, like I said, is that control. If I don't do it, it's not going to get done, or it's not going to get done right. And the underlying belief in that is it may be that it has to be a certain way. It has to be perfect. So I actually do. I tend to take control because if I think it's not going to be as good as I could do it, I begin having anxiety. It's bothering me on the inside. So I'm actually using overfunctioning as the answer to the anxiety I'm feeling on the inside.
Let's delve into that a little bit more.
Okay.
Give us an example.
Okay, so let's say that there's something at the office that needs to get done. And there are other people that have offered to help or have offered to do it. But when you're seeing them not doing it the way you would like it done, or not doing it the exact same way you would, you become, it may be like, I feel this pressure, like I just need to step in, I just need to take over, let me just show them how to do it. Now it's just going to be easier if I just do it myself. But it's more out of the, I'm uncomfortable, and I don't like this feeling of uneasiness, and it may make me feel irritable on the inside. And so I'm trying to actually medicate what I'm feeling. And
By
so
doing it myself.
if I just do it myself, it's going to fix. I'm going to feel more calm.
It's self-soothing.
Yes. So over-functioning, it can wipe me out, leave me overwhelmed, tired, but it can also be self-soothing because
Where's that anxiety coming from?
I think we're looking at what are the cognitive beliefs that we have, because it may stem from things like, when I'm growing up, when I do something, if it wasn't good enough, it was pointed out. So I learned it has to be perfect. And so I need to make sure I have this perfect product because somebody's going to be pleased. Or I can be pleased because it's perfect. So we're looking at, it could be a number of different beliefs that it needs to be perfect. It can be a negative belief that nobody can do it as good as me. That if I'm not the answer, then I'm the problem. So I think it's really looking at asking that question, why is this bothering me so much? What is my fear? If somebody doesn't do it the way I would do it, what's the worst thing that could happen? What am I trying to run from here? And so I think that overfunction can not just be the problem, but it can also be the solution for many people.
So for us overfunctioners listening right now, what are we missing out on in life? Like more free time, more contentment inside?
Yes.
Okay.
I think yes. I think it can affect relationships, because I begin to teach people that, somebody else may be willing to help me, but I've taught them that I don't receive help, that I'm going to actually end up taking it away, or I'll tell them why they didn't do it right, or so they stop offering to help. And so now it's not that they're unwilling, but it's more they're scared that it wouldn't be accepted. And so it can affect the relationships I have, because people may not feel safe that, hey, if I say something, something's going to be said about why I don't do it as good, or they're just going to reject it anyways. So it can actually become a trend people stop asking.
So how do you as a therapist help those of us who are overfunctioners?
Well, I think that when I work with someone in my office, I want to know, okay, what is the root of that? What happens, and what is the biggest fear? Because sometimes we don't actually ask ourselves, what am I afraid of? Because we'll say, well, I'm not afraid of anything. I just want to get it done right. And it's like, okay, but if it doesn't get done exactly the way I want it, and maybe it's not what I would say perfect, what's the worst thing that could happen? And sometimes when we can look at, well, if the worst thing that could happen is it got done, but it wasn't quite the way I would do it, okay, if that's the worst thing, maybe I need to begin allowing some of those things that aren't the most important to me. How can I actually look at what's the most important to me? And those may be the ones I focus on, but what can I begin practicing letting go? And practicing it actually being good enough. What is a new good enough? And good enough can't always be perfect.
I was wondering if overfunctioners are those who have dealt with the issue of not feeling good enough.
Mm-hmm. Many times.
And so this is how we become, in our minds, better than enough.
Right. Well, because we can also get it to where our worth is in our achievements. And so if I can do this and hit it out of the ballpark every single time, then people are going to realize that we're really good at what we do and we have worth. And so there's a part of saying, sometimes my good enough, it doesn't change my worth as a person. And so it's practicing how can I begin letting go and maybe inviting other people to do things that I know I could do better or different, but I'm going to allow them to do it and see it as, you know what, this is actually good enough and I've got extra space in my schedule. I can do something different. I don't have to focus on it.
All right, here in the notes you say, so what's the answer to overfunctioning? And you say the answer isn't to stop caring, it's to start trusting God and trusting others to carry what belongs to them. Overfunctioning says, it all depends on me. Healing says, I can do my part and release the rest.
Yeah. You know, I think that there's a part of, it's really tied to our inner dialogue. You know, if I'm telling myself that what is my part, and I'm not responsible for anybody else's part but mine, and so my part I will do to the best of my ability, but I don't have to measure everybody else's part. And when we can sit in that uncomfortableness, I'll use that word again, it's the uncomfortableness of letting somebody else struggle, somebody else learning to do something. And it's like when we see somebody else not doing it the same way, we want to jump in rather than giving them the space. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to grow so we can actually take growth opportunities away from other people. It's kind of like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. I've got little granddaughters and a grandson. But my granddaughters love to say, no, me do it. No, I'll do it. You know, I'll try to offer to help. No, me do it. And it's like they don't want anybody touching it but them. And so it's learning to actually sit back and let others participate. So it's not all about me. It's not all about what I'm doing. You know, this is also reminding yourself that even if I'm not fixing everything or if I'm not doing everything, I'm still loved. I still have value. And so, and that's maybe something hard for overfunctioners is we're so used to doing everything that we focus on doing. We're busy. And so we don't know what to do when we're not busy. And so that's learning to develop a muscle that says, I don't have to be busy and do. It's like sometimes I'm going to let myself just be. I'm going to just enjoy.
All right, we're going to just be for a little bit more here as we take a break.
You know, some of the trigger words in my house is when my husband will say, so what are you going to do today? And I'm like, absolutely nothing. So you don't have to do to have value.
I'm David Warren talking with Kimberly Harr. Again, the name of her book is Healing from Life's Deepest Hurts, available wherever books are sold. And she reads the book on audible.com, so you can check that out after the road show. Her websites are KimberlyHarr.com. Harr is H-A-A-R. And then for her therapy practice or office, which is There's Hope Counseling, that website address is there'shopehere.com. I guess that's for those who don't know how to spell counseling, right? Again, There's Hope Counseling, the website address, there'shopehere.com. All right, well, we will be back and see how far we get with hot topic number 3 out of the 5 topics, which are common issues that Kim hears and sees every day in her office. We'll both be back after this. I'm David Warren, Program Director at Oasis Radio Network and one of the hosts of this podcast. All of our hosts enjoy hearing from you, our listening family, so drop us a note. Our email address is roadshow@oasisnetwork.org. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and you'll receive new episodes on your mobile devices. And now, back to the show. I'm David Warren here with Kim Harr, and we are talking about common issues in therapy today. And we're calling this Hot Topics, and we are to hot topic number 3. I don't know how far we will get with this. We might need to pick it back up on a round 2 or part 2 road show of Hot Topics. But this is something that you encounter on a, I'm sure, daily basis. It may be every one of the persons that goes to see you for therapy has boundaries struggling with setting boundaries.
Yeah. I don't think it's just people that come for therapy. I think that we all deal with people every single day that struggle with setting boundaries.
All right, so let's review. What is a boundary in this case?
Yeah. A boundary is more, I want to say it's like a limit, but I am saying what I will do. It's about my behavior, not what I need you to do to change in order to get a different situation. So an example of a boundary is, let's say every time you and I got together, you made fun of my husband. And I set a boundary, and I'm not saying, David, you can't make fun of my husband anymore. That's not a boundary. I'm just telling you what you can't do. A boundary actually says something like, you know what, David, I'm asking that you don't make fun of my husband. If you do, if that comes up in our conversation, I'm either going to have to change the topic or I'm going to, leave, but I'm not going to sit and listen to my husband being made fun of. So I'm not telling you what you can and cannot do. I'm saying what I will or will not do. I'm saying what the behavior is that I don't want, but it's about controlling me. It's not about controlling you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And you don't make fun of my husband. He loves you, David.
Well, thank you. But and you know what? And you have to be ready for the person on the receiving end of getting a boundary. I bet they get offended every once in a while.
They do. They can feel like they are being accused of something, or they will feel like it's rejection. And so in setting a healthy boundary, you have to be able to, again, it's about you, not the other person. And, I think that there's a part of, sometimes we have a hard time setting a boundary, but I always say, you need to set a boundary when you are feeling in your body, you're feeling frustrated, tense, angry. It's like, what is my body telling me? And it's saying, okay, there's something that needs to change here. And so if we tune into our bodies is, okay, what am I not okay with? And I can do it. They can be kind. Sometimes when people use the word boundary, and I hear this so often, people will use boundary almost like it's a bad word, like it's a B word. They crossed my boundary. And we're accusing someone, don't cross my boundary. And it's really more, I can set a really healthy boundary in a really kind way. I can even use something like a softened startup, and I may say, you know what, this may or may not have been your intention. Mm-hmm. But this is how it feels.
I was just going to say that instead of saying, I need to set a boundary,
yes,
because that could throw the flag up and somebody's going to be ready to be offended on the receiving end of that versus, when you say that about, in your case, you saying about my husband, it makes me feel bad.
Yes.
And I know you don't want me to feel bad.
No. And so
that's a soft way of doing that. Now, if they're not getting it, you will eventually have to say, okay.
That's right.
I need to set a boundary here.
Yeah. And it's okay to say, you know what, this hurts my feelings. It's not okay with me. And so I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about you. I'm saying this isn't okay with me. Hey, this hurts my feelings. So I need us to stop talking about this, or else I just need to go. We just need to, end our lunch, and we'll pick it back up next month. So it's more of I'm in the driver's seat.
I love that.
But we don't want to use it as a weapon.
I love that. And you did not do an emotional cutoff, as we discussed earlier.
No.
I love that kind of like, and, we'll just pick it up, during our next time we have lunch.
Yeah. And sometimes it's able to say, I may say something, for me, I may say, you know what? It may or may not even seem rational, but this is just how I'm feeling, and this is important to me.
I love that.
So I'm not defending it because I don't have to defend my boundary.
And if I'm a good friend and am somewhat aware, I'm reading you at that point and thinking, I better quit doing that.
Yeah. And if you don't, then I need to be able to. So how do I do something that I'm in charge of protecting me, not you? You don't have to protect me. I'm protecting me. So it doesn't have to be, I don't have to fight for it. It's not a weapon. It's just something that I'm like, I can become comfortable saying, hey, I just need to do something.
You know, another thing you could do if I invite you to lunch, let's say, and you have had many times with me where I make digs about your husband, maybe you would say something to me when I invite you to lunch, and you say, well, I'd like to do that, but let me just ask that we not bring up my husband during the conversation.
Absolutely. And being able to say that. And then the same way when we were talking about our last hot topic about sitting with that uncomfortableness is I have to be able to sit with you being uncomfortable. Because you may look uncomfortable. You may be like, oh my goodness. And my knee-jerk reaction, if I have a hard time with boundaries, is I'm going to jump in and I'm going to smooth it over and say, well, it's not that big of a deal.
You're going to undo what you've been trying to do this whole time.
That's right. That's right.
And you're back to ground zero then.
So when you set a boundary, you have to be comfortable with whatever response you get from somebody.
So sometimes, I'm getting into this now, sometimes if you set a boundary and they're looking at you just like, I can't believe you just said that to me. You need to be able to just kind of sit there for a few seconds.
That uncomfortable silence.
And be like, I'm going to mean this 5 minutes down the road. I'm not going to start backtracking or unsetting the boundary because I can tell it's upsetting you and I don't want, I guess, would that be codependency in that case?
It can be. And I think that there's a part of, if I were going to do that, I would actually probably go ahead and change the conversation. I would probably say, hey, you know what? Okay, we're not going to talk about my husband. And hey, but what about such and such that I heard that you did this a week ago? How did that go? So I'm actually steering it where I'm wanting it to go away from it. But I can't control your response, so I have to be able to sit with that.
All right. So for people who aren't great communicators verbally, can you do a boundary setting in an email or a text or a letter?
You can. I don't like setting boundaries or having communication like that in text messages because so much can get read in. It's kind of like if you've ever texted somebody and like they're texting you back and you see the bouncing bubbles, so they're writing something and you're wondering, and then those bouncing bubbles disappear, so then they don't write anything. You're like, what were they thinking? And so we put our thoughts on somebody else. And so in a text message, I like to say communicate logistics, communicate, hey, how are you? But don't have hard conversations in text messages because that can be taken so
many different ways.
Many different ways, yeah. Same thing with emails. Really, it's boundaries they don't have to be long. Write them out if you need to. Ask somebody for help. Hey, I'm trying to set a boundary and I need help with communicating that.
Well, we're getting short on time. We will pick this back up. We're going to do a part 2 officially on Hot Topics, and we will talk much more about boundary struggles. But what do you want to get in about this before we meet again?
Well, I think the big thing is the reason setting boundaries can be hard for so many people is because God wired us for connection. And so we desire to have this connection with people. And when we set boundaries, it can stir up fears in us about, oh, they're not going to like me. I'll hurt them. We can feel rejected. And so we don't do it. And so I think that I would just encourage everybody to think of boundaries as really a blessing. How can I'm really just setting boundaries like when you're driving down the road and you've got the lines in the road. I just know which is my lane and they keep us safe. So think of boundaries as actually a good thing because God's a God of boundaries. Well,
coming up on part 2 of this 2-part series, more on boundary struggles plus hot topic number 4, unfinished business. And number 5, when you can't fix it.
Yeah.
When you can't fix it. All right. Kimberly Harr, how can people get your book? How can they find you?
All right. Well, they can go to my website, KimberlyHarr.com, and that's HAAR. They can find my book at the library, on Amazon, at their bookstores, on Audible, as you mentioned.
The name of the book is?
Healing from Life's Deepest Hurts, Reclaiming Your Life After Grief, Loss, or Trauma.
Okay, and if they want more information on There's Hope Counseling?
Go to there'shopehere.org. there'shopehere.com.
There'shopehere.com. All right. Well, we always like to end our therapy sessions with good news that there is hope, there's help, and there is healing. So give us some closing thoughts, and we will pick it back up next time.
Yeah, I think closing thoughts is we're all works in progress, and none of us do this perfect. And so as long as we continue to work on ourselves, how do we work on ourselves with protecting our peace? How do we learn to know what is it that we need, and how do we communicate that? It's a work in progress.
All right, to be continued. We're talking about common issues in therapy today, also known as hot topics. Well, it's been delightful to have you with us once again on the airwaves of the Oasis Radio Network. Kimberly Harr, again, the name of her book, Healing from Life's Deepest Hurts. I'm David Warren.
And I'm Kim Harr.
And it's been another great Roadshow. You've been listening to The Roadshow. If you'd like to write to us, here's our address. The Roadshow, P.O. Box 1924, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74101. Our email address is roadshow@oasisnetwork.org. The views of today's guest aren't necessarily those of this station, but we do appreciate and thank our guest for spending this time with us. The Roadshow, an Oasis Network presentation.